shop owner. I've written a few books on the history of cannabis. And then I have a shop called the Urban Shaman Entheobotanicals, and there I supply plants that are used in a variety of cultures for shamanic purposes, relaxing purposes, energizing purposes. Salvia divinorum, or diviner sage, is a sage from Mexico. It's a cultivated plant, and the real origins of when it first began cultivated are not known. It's thought that it might have been one of the Mayan sacred plants, but it was used by the Maztec Indians, and this is the same culture that brought us our knowledge of the psilocybin mushrooms through people like Maria Sabina. Amongst the Maztecs, traditionally it was chewed. Fresh leaves were chewed, and the liquid was held in the mouth for like an hour. And in this method of ingestion, I think the effects are probably a little closer to just maybe a mushroom type high, where it lasts for an hour or two.
I'll describe what this looks like. Okay, it's it's fucked over here and it's fucked over there. No, it's really fucked.
Not quite as intense as the smoked salvia, and this is the way most people are doing it now.
I don't even fucking know.
At some point, people started making extracts of the active chemical salvinorum and then putting these on to dried leaf, and then at different potencies, 10 times, 20 times, 30 times.
I heard there's like times 1, times 2,
this
times
is times
30.
30.
Times 30?
Times 30, yeah.
Where the fuck you guys from?
And through this, some very powerful, albeit short, visionary experiences have been induced.
I see you. You might as well talk. What did I do?
Probably in this form here, it may well be the most potent psychoactive substance.
On the beginning, I was like, really funny because was like everything was so weird.
Yeah.
But I never feel scared or anything like that. It was more like funny until he was asking me like, how you feel? I was scared.
Did it feel kind of like an accordion?
According, yeah, just kind of weird.
Would you do it again?
Yeah.
Because I'm in this unique position of having a shop that sells visionary plants, I talk to a lot of people come in and explain their experiences to me. I've talked to hundreds, if not thousands of people about their experiences on Salvia divinorum. It's interesting some of the commonalities of those experiences. People that have never met and have no way of contacting, reporting the same things. Like oftentimes people say that they have this experience where everything's made out of Lego.
At first, it was feeling like a buzz, like a weed buzz. Really intense weed buzz when you inhale a lot.
You actually saw people.
Oh yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, I was back home with my mom when my brothers were there, but they were dead, right?
Do you think you went through a regression? Like
yes.
you went back in time?
Totally. Oh, totally.
You went
I was back
in
when
time?
I was a kid. Fucking for sure.
Other people often report that they were pages in a book, and it's like that collective consciousness is trying to convey something to the individual in a symbolic manner. Your pages in a book, you're just an experience.
Yeah, like
¿Qué estás viendo? ¿Qué estás viendo? ¿Qué estás viendo? ¿Puedes explicarme qué estás viendo? ¿Sí?
You're not a solid reality. You're just a temporary communion of molecules and atoms that's ever changing, and it goes back out and becomes other things. You're just that experience. Everything's just made out of Legos, like everything's just sand, and you're like a sand man walking in a sand dune.
Who wanted to take? Who wanted to take? Who wanted to take the rule?
And it's this interchanging thing, and that's what's being communicated. The name Divinorum itself is, the idea is that it's a giver of information. This was a diviner sage. Generally when the Maztecs used it, they have a question for the Salvinorum, and then from the experience that they have, they divine an answer.
I would like to know what is one of the main secrets that I'm still yet blind to.
It's very depersonalizing. People have the experience of, like if they were staring at moss, they might become moss, or paint on a wall, they might become paint on a wall. Then other people have even more profound experiences. I've, talked to people that said that they were somebody else, somewhere else. and they have had a whole life behind them.
How long do the effects of salvia last?
5 minutes.
5 minutes?
About 5 minutes, yeah.
This is a very powerful substance. It's only 5 minutes, but maybe the longest 5 minutes of most people's lives. Oftentimes people feel like it's maybe the end of their life or the end of the world, and some sort of cruel joke has been played upon them by the universe, and everybody's laughing at them and stuff. And I think that can be a type of effect that can be induced by having maybe a circle of people observing your experience and laughing at you.
You want to be around good energies or positive people to where you're not feeling paranoid or feeling, awful.
That's something important for people to remember as well, is set and setting with this substance, because whatever is around you is going to be taken into your trip. So, if you're watching the Simpsons cartoon, you might get pulled into a Simpsons cartoon, or if your friends are out to terrorize you in such a state, they're probably not really the best type of people to be doing something like that with. Salvinorium, the active chemical, they've yet to figure out exactly what receptor it's attaching to in the brain. Most other things, like THC or DMT, or they have an idea of what part of the brain that they're working on, and working with Salvinorium, this is still an unknown.
It's okay. You'll be over soon. Check with me, hand. You're not falling. You're okay.
Yeah, well, I haven't really used it a lot. I'm not really too drawn to it. For me, it was like I was getting pulled sideways and going flat into the second dimension, and it wasn't something I was feeling like that was a place I really wanted to go. Salvia Divinorum is easy to procure. Right now, it's legal in Canada. I have it in my shop, the Urban Shaman, but it's available, I'm sure, in every province in Canada. I think anybody that seeks it out, before they seek it out, should at least read up on it a little bit, and have some knowledge of what they're getting into, and take it pretty seriously, because it's a very powerful substance. And if they choose to use it, that they should use it responsibly. It's looking like it's going to be outlawed in the next year or two. There's a process afoot to outlaw it, unless somebody's able to stall that process. The BC Civil Liberties Association has an argument against that process. The Students for a Sensible Drug Policy have also filed some sort of affidavit against that process, and people interested can become involved, probably by contacting those organizations. It's not based on any sort of bad health effects or long-term damage from the substance, but purely on the 5-10 minute window of the visionary state that it produces. And such, plant-induced visionary states have been part of human culture from time immemorial, and it can be found at the origins of religion, and are part of human culture. And humanity has a natural indigenous right to the plants of the earth, and it's a travesty that another such plant should be taken away from humanity that offers such states of consciousness. There's definitely an inherent fear of psychoactive substances by, I'd say particularly the Christians, right, and I'd say the roots of the drug war in general are Christians versus the devil's weed, and that's true of salvia as well. It's, a lot of conservatives and stuff that are freaked out by this, and, it's like the Middle Ages, when such figures were after witches for witchcraft, which was also, again, the use of a lot of psychoactive plants in a ritual context. I've never read of any sort of long-term effects amongst the Maztecs, or know of anybody that had claimed any sort of negative effect beyond maybe a shocking experience from the power of the substance itself. Take the proper precautions, and have somebody there with you that you trust, in a quiet environment, in a prepared environment. If you're going to use something like that, you should be looking for something, not just a reckless experience. You should have a question that you have, or a purpose for what you're doing, and then you want to create an environment that induces the feeling of that particular quest, and then meditate on that, and then take it when you're fully prepared, in order to have the proper sacred experience that such a plant was bred for.
When you pop, they pop. When you pop, they pop. When you pop, they pop a pop, pop a pop, pop. When they pop, you pop. When they pop, you pop. When they pop, you pop a pop, pop a pop, pop. When you pop, they pop. When you pop, they pop. When you pop, they pop a pop, pop a pop, pop. When they pop, you pop. When they pop, you pop. When they pop, you pop a pop, pop a pop, pop. Alien messages do repeat to thee. Truth vibrates infinities. Alien messages do repeat to thee. Truth vibrates infinities.